Hello there, my name is Himanish Goel, and I welcome you all to the Everyday Consultants podcast show, where we talk about the uncertain trajectories it takes for stepping into the shoes of a consultant's mind. From adapting to constantly learn through research and develop their own theories, objectives, and opinions for advising businesses, from the area of expertise to communicate the fine line between an SME and polymath. Thanks for taking the time to join me, and let's tune into today's episode of learning more about the skills for grasping key economical business factors or yearly goals that make up the head and toe of consulting environments itself. So for today's episode, we're mostly going to be talking about how when we have consultants that come into today's big enterprises like Accenture, or Deloitte, or PwC, or CGI, or whoever it may be, because they're small and big enterprises that cover that consulting scope. A lot of the times when business or economic days are not going as well, in terms of like right now, inflation going up the roof, people getting laid off because businesses don't have the money to provide income, or whatever it might be in terms of what's happening around the world, like the Ukraine fights, or something like the Oscar battle between Will Smith and Chris Rock, or anything that's keeping society in like bad routine of news headlines, is what it starts to make the economic variations. It starts to make the economic factors come into play that if things are not going well in the economy wise, that means we have to start rising. We need to start rising our prices. This is a time of like the recession wise, where you have to it's like what animals do, right? When there's a lot of food, everyone goes there and they know that, okay, there's a bunch of food that's stored in the jungles and we can go there as much as we'd like. But when it's the winter, when they have to hibernate or they have to, find adjustments, they get as much of food they can and try to share equally so everyone has a share piece in it, but also trying to stay low during those times like these, in terms of folks that do have full-time positions, to kind of value that from the perspective that, okay, this is going to be more than the 8 to 5 projected hours that you're usually supposed to work because of just inflation-wise. You might have to put an extra an hour or two here, or you might have to put an extra, an hour here on like a Friday. When people might be leaving at 3, you might want to leave at 4 instead because it's going to help long term. And that is sort of that longevity that a lot of folks, especially our generations, don't get. People like me who've understood that just comes with experience, and folks that don't, they have to sort of encounter that in order to kind of progress and go over the next hump. Because when someone from college comes out, they expect that they're just supposed to work from 8 to 5 and log off, which is technically true, but really you need to be expanding that depending on how things are going economy-wise, because the business that you're working for, that company, is also being affected some way or the other. Whether you be in the finance industry or the insurance industry or the technology type of company, products and services are not going to work in the market because people are not looking to invest so much in terms of money. Finance and insurance companies are in a little bit of a tight situation because of the fact that folks are looking for more interest rates to invest in like their savings account, so that they can start to save more during times like these, and the same thing happened when the pandemic started. I don't know about the inflation part for that, but I do know a lot of folks were able to save more money, even based from like the unemployment standpoint that was happening in 2020, because we were going through a different phase of time where the market growth was going as smoothly as it was in 2018 and 19, and all of a sudden this virus kind of it gave opportunities and also kept people in their homes, giving different type of investments that we didn't think about before the pandemic in terms of our day-to-day busy lives. Investments in mental health and mental wellness, in just employee investment, during certain time periods of business growth. So each phase has its own, phase of the year has its own problems and opportunities. But lately we've been seeing a lot of economy destruction, and that's why, the Federal Reserve gave out that things is starting to increase interest rates so people can save during times when there will be more shining opportunities, hopefully by the second quarter of next year, which I'm estimating, because there's also housing markets that have been dropping lately, if anyone's been noticing that. So I guess for folks that just want like a small summary out of this, I think one thing that you can take about is economic factors are pretty much, they're just the growing economy from which you are seeing what's happening from a societal standpoint, whether it's the percentage of unemployment, the inflation rates, the interest and exchange rates, the commodity, all of these affect the power, income, households, and any sort of organizations because of the kind of, trying to think of the best word to describe here, just based on like the investment in the future, pretty much. It doesn't kind of relate to the business influence, but it's kind of dependent on the economy wise, right? Like interest rates, tax rates, laws, policies, wages, and governmental activities are all based on those economic factors that make those decisions on how should we start to treat the approach. Economy and finance, two things that merge very well together because of the fact that managing money for companies or personal or just individual lives or families is what makes you invest in those bigger items later down the years. And the economy, understanding when is the right time to invest and when is the right time to kind of look around for those opportunities, also comes into play because you need to know when to put the secure button on and when to not put the safe button on, kind of. So hopefully you found this episode inspiring, giving some sort of base knowledge of what I tend to presume that consultants should have a basic knowledge of, because a lot of the times we tend to, if some of us have that understanding but some don't, and so it just comes from researching about it or experiencing those things around you, especially students that might have graduated from the School of Business, which is also giving them a head start because they might have taken courses based on micro and macroeconomics. So I think consultants itself really need to push those bars to kind of helping other companies make better decisions based on what's happening around the industry standpoint, because if things are not going well in cloud, you need to find reroutes to kind of put it in partial, to give small investments to each area, a little bit of here in AWS, a little bit of here in Azure, a little bit of here in GCP, a little bit of here in Oracle, or whatever works best for that client, supposedly. So I hope, like I said before, you gained some knowledge for what the consulting environment looks like. And if you know of anyone that's looking for tips or just advice on what does the consultant's mind kind of convey, be sure to guide them to this podcast show of Everyday Consultants. And till next time, Stay curious, keep learning and striving, of course, and continue to put on that consultant's hat for just growing that bank of knowledge and interest in any sort of field of topic that kind of pushes you to work harder every single time at hand. And until then, stay tuned for the next episode of Everyday Consultants, and I'm looking forward to all of you hearing it out. See ya. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and also leave a review of how much you enjoyed listening to Everyday Consultants. While you're at it, be sure to provide any feedback you might have on my LinkedIn posts in the comments below. And if you know of a friend who's curious about learning quick bites of information regarding the life of a consultant, then be sure to recommend my show to them or anyone that you think might benefit from listening to it. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Reddit, and Twitter by searching my name on the platform. If you're interested in looking at some of my other professional content that is currently in the works, then in that case, you can take a look at my Linktree portfolio that can be found below in the description or show notes of this episode. Don't forget to tune in to listening to all episodes of Everyday Consultants and wherever you're able to find your local podcast. Until next time, stay broad, be curious, and be passionate about listening to a conversation where knowledgeable advice gets provided about the world of consulting, about a consultant in our next episode. Peace out.